What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right. So finally, we look like we're going to start getting some action, hopefully, in the welterweight division, a unification fight between Keith Thurman and Shawn Porter. A report came out on Sky Sports this morning, updating on what would be Shawn Porter's next fight. So he gave an interview to Sky Sports, and I'll go through that. Hey, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. And that way you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also when we do the live streams, do a live stream every morning before, after Trail Bison Talk in the morning. So you can check me out there. And thank you to everybody that supports the channel through Venmo, Patreon, the super chats, and the live stream. Much appreciated. And again, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit that bell icon so that we can chop it up on some of these videos. So let me go through the article. Then, this to me, I'm hoping this occurs, but I'm going to take it with a grain of salt, man. But, if this is the case, hey, like I said, I'm down with any unification fight. So there's a lot of heat that I was putting on Shawn Porter for not making the Errol Spence Jr. fight. So if that's the case, if this is the case where you get Shawn Porter, Keith Thurman, then, hey, man, what can you do? It's a unification fight. I'll take a unification fight. So let me go through what he said. All right, Shawn Porter is confident that he'll make his first defense of his WBC welterweight world title against Keith Thurman early next year. Showtime admits negotiations are ongoing, but has his sights. Showtime admits, forgive me, man. It made me stop for a second because I thought of Showtime, the network. Showtime admits negotiations are ongoing, but he has his sights set on a rematch with the former holder of the green and gold welterweight strap. The WBC ordered the fight last month, and even though Thurman, who won their 2016 fight on a unanimous decision, will not have boxed for 2 years due to a serious elbow injury, Porter expects it to be confirmed for the start of 2019. Right now, the mandatory is Keith Thurman, and I know the negotiations got underway about 3 weeks ago, and we should know really soon whether it's going to happen and where it will take place, he exclusively told Sky Sports. Shout out to Sky Sports. He wants a fight. I known for a while he said he wanted a comeback fight, and now he's saying he wants to fight me and accept the mandatory challenge. The best thing I can do is wait for it. Get ready for confirmation on that fight, and then get working and get ready for it. This is what being a champion is. Look at the NBA. The Golden State Warriors won the championship, and they get to pick who they want to play against in the championship the following year. It happened to be the same team they beat the previous year. This is the sport we're in. If you want to be the best, you have to go and get the best, and that's what I'm going to do. Showtime has also been in talks on taking the IBF champion Errol Spence Jr. after both agreed to a unification clash in the aftermath of Porter's WBC win over Garcia. Spence, got in the ring and said he wanted to fight me, and obviously I said I wanted to fight him. The WBC have Keith in mind, though, and I've told who I've had to tell. If I can't fight Keith Thurman, I don't want to fight anyone other than Errol Spence. Those two fights are the only ones who make sense for me, and those are really the ones that'll get me going and get me into a state of mind I need to prepare for a fight. After those, I don't see the challenges I want in my career at this point. So yeah, man, I like that out of you, Shawn. Thank you. And I will get up off your back. I will take that. See, I'm cool with unifications, man. I'm cool with unifications. I said this in the same thing that I said about Errol Spence Jr. fighting Keith Thurman and ahead of him fighting Terrence Crawford. I think the same thing is true here. If Shawn Porter is fighting Keith Thurman, and I know there's been a lot of rumors out there about whether or not Keith Thurman was going to come back at all. But if he winds up fighting Keith Thurman, that is a unification fight that gets the welterweight division that much closer to having a unified champ, and that's encouraging. And now, as far as what would happen in the fight, man, I'd have a really hard time believing that I think it'll be a very, very I would favor Shawn Porter in that fight. Keith Thurman hasn't been in a boxing ring in 2 years. I don't know why Keith Thurman would jump right in there with Shawn Porter. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of Shawn Porter's fighting style. I've always said that I've liked Shawn Porter as a person. I like his father as a person from what I've seen from the outside looking in. And but I'm not the biggest fan of his fighting style. But he showed more to me than I thought he had. He looked a lot better against Danny Garcia than I thought he would. So I think that Keith Thurman, just because of the long layoff that is taking place, I think, man, that's just going to be a real difficult fight for Keith Thurman, coming back against somebody that's very active. But like I said, man, if that fight happens, I'll take that fight. The other part that I like about it is that Shawn Porter was explaining what was going on with Errol Spence Jr., saying, look, man, the WBC wants me to fight Keith Thurman. And obviously the WBA belt is out there as well. So if the WBC is pressuring Shawn Porter to fight Keith Thurman, and maybe the WBC would be less willing actually, in that case, that's not only them giving a shot to a mandatory, which is Keith Thurman, but it's also a unification fight. So I could see why people would argue, or why the WBC would argue, that unification and a mandatory trumps unification, right? Or that why they would push for that fight. I mean, that's a reasonable thing. So I hope it happens. And then, of course, if Shawn Porter says, look, if this thing with Keith Thurman doesn't work out, then Errol Spence Jr. is the only guy that I want to fight. Then, hey, man, let's get it cracking with Errol Spence Jr. Now, the one person that he didn't mention was Terrence Crawford. Clearly, Terrence Crawford is out there as well, and I think that is the one big thing that was missing from this statement from Shawn Porter, was that outside, because he says, and forgive me a second, man, I'm doing these videos in a conversational manner. So, I'm not writing them, I'm not scripting them out. So if I get a thought every once in a while, I'm just going to go dip back into the article and make sure that I get what he said correctly. He said, those two fights are the only ones who make sense for me. And those are really the ones that will get me going and get me into the state of mind I need to prepare for a fight. Right now, I'm assuming that, this is an interview, and then maybe Terrence Crawford didn't enter his mind, right? That Terrence Crawford just, skipped his mind, because these are the conversations or the fights that he's actually trying to negotiate. But I think that unification is the most important thing that can come out of this welterweight division, or any division in boxing. And one of the big things that I would like to be better about boxing is I would like to have more than one unified champion. I mean, more than one, not unified champion, but one undisputed champion. And I'm starting to take the mindset that if you have one belt or two belts, that doesn't make you any more of a title holder than somebody that has one title. Because unless you have all four of them, you're not the champion. Somebody else in that division can call themselves a champion. Right. The only situation where that wouldn't be the case is, for example, the brief amount of time that Canelo Alvarez owned the WBC and the WBA belt, but the IBF and the WBO were vacant. I mean, that's the only anomaly in boxing, right? Where, other than something happening like Alexander Usyk did, or something like Terrence Crawford did at 140 pounds, where you can say you're the only champion. Now, if Terrence Crawford, if Shawn Porter is trying to do that, I'm 100%, 100 miles an hour behind Shawn Porter in trying to do that. Same thing for Errol Spence. Same thing for Keith Thurman. Same thing for Terrence Crawford. And this interview makes me feel more hopeful, because the silence that was going on around Shawn Porter, that was disturbing. And a lot of people really got into, back and forth about Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence as if they were the only two champions, which obviously is not the case. So, shout out to Shawn Porter for this interview. I certainly hope this comes to fruition. I hope what he says is true, that if he doesn't fight Keith Thurman, that he winds up fighting Errol Spence Jr. And if it can't, and if whoever wins those fights, I would hope would fight Terrence Crawford so we can unify it. So anyway, it is what it is, man. Thank y'all for tuning into the video. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. And with that, I'm out. Peace.